Tonight's developing story, one man is dead and a WSU football player is in serious condition tonight after an overnight shooting on Pullman's College Hill.
The Moscow Police Department says officers found the body of a young Boise man this morning. The body of 19-year-old Hudson Lindo.
Huddy, hey.
Moscow Police Department says they responded to reports of a body in the creek around 11:30
The University
this
of Idaho
morning.
student says he was attacked by a group of other students, including some vandal football players. That student's family is now asking for answers. The Reed family says back in February, a group of 40 to 50 students showed up uninvited to their son Timmy's house off campus.
Found out their son, Timmy, woke up looking like this.
He'd asked them to leave, and 20 or 30 seconds in, he was cold-cocked and knocked unconscious and broke his nose.
The president of this fraternity says these coyote killings were pretty gruesome. The coyote's body was mangled, and he says the sorority across the street got it even worse.
A 28-year-old Pullman man is dead after police say he was shot here on the 800 block of Northeast California Street. This is on WSU's Greek Row.
When you see something in the news like that, you never expect it to be someone you know.
To a deadly Pullman shooting that happened the day after Christmas. Police now investigating it as a homicide.
Not every day is guaranteed.
And I hope that this is not a trend that we continue.
During my time in Pullman, Greek Row was quiet and there was no one to talk about the crime.
Throughout history, people have sought to be a part of a group, whether it's a team, a gang, or a fraternity. These groups often attract younger people because they offer a sense of belonging and acceptance. The situation in Moscow and Pullman is no different. Many freshmen arrive eager to join a group as quickly as possible. With major colleges located near each other, multiple fraternities, and numerous sports teams, the presence of these young and diverse groups creates an environment where violence could occur. This violence may take the form of threats, physical altercations, corruption within law enforcement, or even shootings. Greek Row, in particular, has been a long-standing source of harm and violence within the Moscow and Pullman community. There seems to be a back and forth between a few groups. The first group consists of the football team on both campuses. The second group includes the fraternities located near each other on Greek Row. The football team's roster comprises of about 115 players, each vowing to have one another's back. On game day, hundreds of students gather to cheer and watch them compete against the opposing schools. However, many are unaware of what happens behind the scenes. After the games, when the sun goes down, players change into plain clothes, roam the streets to drink, party, and look for places to celebrate. Due to the close proximity of the fraternities and other student groups, these players often cross paths with others who have similar plans. When these groups collide, things can quickly turn ugly. For instance, after a scuffle between a fraternity member and a vandal football player, the team would sought revenge a week later. Wearing ski masks and armed with pipes, they entered a fraternity member's home looking for blood.
The University of Idaho student says he was attacked by a group of other students, including some vandal football players. That student's family is now asking for answers. The Reed family says back in February, a group of 40 to 50 students showed up uninvited to their son Timmy's house off campus. Timmy had been planning on hosting a party that night, but when the group showed up, Timmy's dad says he asked them to leave. Then he says they punched him, knocking him unconscious. Again, this was back in February. Well, now Timmy's dad says the university is dragging their feet on the investigation. Nicole Hernandez reports tonight.
It's very devastating as a parent.
It's been 10 weeks since Nick Reed got the call about his son.
We found out the next morning, February 11th.
Found out their son, Timmy, woke up looking like this.
He'd asked them to leave, and 20 or 30 seconds in, he was cold-cocked and knocked unconscious and broke his nose.
Nick was surprised by the whole situation.
He's just a nice kid, never been in a fight in his entire life.
The family's lawyer says the week before this fight, someone in Timmy's fraternity got into a scuffle with a vandal football player. They say that could be why the group showed up that night, for some sort of revenge.
Nothing that Timmy did incited those 40 or 50 football players or athletes that show up at his house. He had nothing to do with anything the week previous.
Since the university and police have been investigating.
I know the police investigation is ongoing, but we feel like the university could have done more.
The University of Idaho said today they are taking this seriously. They said, quote, "Anytime the safety of any students comes into question, we are deeply concerned and work to understand the facts and take action accordingly." The Moscow police also updated us today, saying they still have one more search warrant they need to serve in their investigation. In the meantime, the Reeds are waiting for more concrete answers.
You know, psychologically, it's been tough for us and him.
These crimes aren't just happening in Idaho. They're also occurring on the Wazoo Pullman campus. Tension exists between the Wazoo football team and the Wazoo fraternities. Many of them party in the same areas and form cult-like gang ties, viewing others as oppositions. However, during one of these outings, a massive fight broke out, leaving 3 Wazoo football players hospitalized. The Lewiston Tribune reported on a now-deleted page that a Wazoo fraternity house could face sanctions due to the assault. Who knows how many incidents go unreported? In one case, an altercation turned fatal, leading to 2 men being shot.
Tonight's developing story: one man is dead and a WSU football player is in serious condition tonight after an overnight shooting on Pullman's College Hill. Pullman police have identified the 2 victims as Lieben Barr and Brandon Gray. Amanda Rowley shares what we know so far.
Witnesses who were at the party near last night's shooting told me they were terrified and ran in all different directions after hearing the gunshots. Now, this all happened here on College Hill, and to give you an idea of where we're at, we're on the north side of Stadium Way, about less than half a mile northwest of Beasley Coliseum, and behind me is the Trinity Lutheran Church.
I was right down that road, just right there.
Akasha Gottschalk was in this College Hill neighborhood with a few friends last night when she heard several gunshots.
There was fighting up the street is what we saw, and I didn't really hear much of it, but then I just heard what really sounded like a lot of gunshots, and then everyone who was in this area just kind of ran.
Pullman police were called to the area for reports of a loud party with possibly 200 people. When they arrived, that's when they too heard the gunshots. They say 2 people were shot, and police have identified them as Lieben Barr, who died at the hospital, and Brandon Gray is in serious but stable condition.
Our thoughts and prayers are with him.
WSU head football coach Nick Rolovich confirmed in a press conference this afternoon Gray is one of his players. He is a redshirt sophomore wide receiver.
So much respect for this team for how they played. I know we didn't win. I know we weren't great, but for them to go out and play as hard as they did with the news they got this morning about their teammate, I think it's a tribute to their character. And all we can do right now is pray for faith.
The news came as a shock to the team. They went into today's away game with heavy hearts.
When you see something in the news like that, you never expect it to be someone you know. It's shocking and it's humbling to know that not every day is guaranteed.
This morning, Pullman police arrested 23-year-old George Melvin Harris III for his involvement in the shooting. He is charged with second-degree assault. It's not clear what prompted the shooting or if anyone else was involved.
Now that we're aware of the corruption in these towns, I can't help but think about how fraternities held secret fight clubs to settle disputes. In the case of the Idaho murders, we know that just hours after Ethan and Xana left the Sigma Chi party, they were found dead. Could fraternity members be orchestrating or even killing other members of their own fraternities? In this small town, with its secretive society like fraternities, it wouldn't be surprising to learn the lengths they may go in order to keep a secret, even if it means silencing one of their own.
New information into a deadly Pullman shooting that happened the day after Christmas. Police now investigating it as a homicide. Crime 2's Connor McAvoy traveled to Pullman today to talk to police who say they need the public's help to crack this case.
A 28-year-old Pullman man is dead after police say he was shot here on the 800 block of Northeast California Street. This is on WSU's Greek Row. Pullman police say they responded to a medical call around 3 a.m. Thursday. They found a man unresponsive. Police are not saying where exactly the shooting happened. He was taken to Pullman Regional Hospital by the fire department, where he died later that day. Police say he was a victim in a shooting, and no arrests have been made as of now. Operations Commander for Pullman Police Aaron Brashears says this is an isolated incident and isn't a type of crime that's common in the area.
Our violent crime rates are low in the city of Pullman, and I hope that this is not a trend that we continue.
During my time in Pullman, Greek Row was quiet, and there was no one to talk about the crime. Brashears says as the department continues its investigation, they're asking for anyone who lives in the area with any surveillance footage or Ring doorbell cameras to reach out, as that may help them determine who the suspect is. Brashears says any video of the area that night will be useful.
And the video may not show a suspect we were looking for, but it may show other witnesses that we'd like to speak with who may or may not know something.
A disturbing discovery for students in the University of Idaho's Greek system over the weekend. Moscow police are searching for the person responsible for leaving coyote carcasses on their doorsteps. XY4's Drew Reeves working for you with who could be responsible.
For the second time in 3 weeks, students at University of Idaho were left with an unsettling discovery. Dead coyotes were left at the doors of several sororities and fraternities, including here at Pi Kappa Phi.
We're really, unsure why that was happening, but we got rid of it.
The president of this fraternity says these coyote killings were pretty gruesome. The coyote's body was mangled, and he says the sorority across the street got it even worse. He says at Pi Beta Phi, there was more blood on the doorstep, even smeared on a window. Police say it appears the coyotes were shot, which is not illegal in Idaho.
With many students dying shortly after leaving a fraternity party.
The body of 19-year-old Hudson Lindau of Boise was found in Paradise Creek near College Avenue in Moscow this morning.
New developments about the Washington State University student who was found dead in his dorm room in January. The Whitman County coroner confirmed last month Luke Tyler died by suicide. Our sister station in Seattle sat down with Luke's parents in an exclusive interview. They say his death followed weeks of reported hazing at his fraternity. The fraternity is under investigation by police as well as the university, and the parents say they're desperate for them to come up with answers and the truth.
Is there any doubt in your mind that hazing contributed to your son's death?
No. We believe the rituals that were part of this fraternity had dangerous components that contributed to his adverse mental and physical health.
From Allison from YouTube, or it might be Alacan, I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. Did they interview peeps from the frat house? And let me tell you, I will answer that question. I'll take that one. Yes, they have. And I've spoken to people at the Sigma Chi house where Ethan was a member and where Xana and Ethan attended the party that night at the Sigma Chi house on November 12th, just a short distance away from the house where the murders occurred.
It's not surprising that corruption extends beyond the fraternities. In such a small town, plagued by crime and violence, it's only natural to suspect corruption within the police force as well. It seems that people in this town are often able to get away with their actions, including some of the officers themselves. With Moscow officers receiving Brady Giglio violations, and many officers, along with former Chief James Fry, stepping down earlier than expected during the most significant case of their careers. The Moscow police refused to charge the students involved in the college party retaliation attack on Timmy.
And new within the last few hours, Moscow police told KREM 2 they will not be pressing charges after an off-campus fight in February. Now, according to police, the fight broke out between a current student and multiple members of the football team. Now, we spoke with the student's dad, who said his son was knocked unconscious and had his nose broken. The Moscow prosecuting attorney went on to say, quote, "There is insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that any criminal conduct happened. Up to 20 University of Idaho football players were under investigation. None of those now will face charges."
Meanwhile, the Wazoo Pullman police chief was placed on administrative leave.
New tonight, Creme 2 has learned that Pullman's police chief, Jake Opgenorth, has been placed on administrative leave. Pullman police did not confirm why Opgenorth was placed on leave, nor did they confirm how long the chief has been on leave. It's also unknown when or if he's expected to return. Opgenorth was named chief back in 2022 after 29 years with the department.
And a Wazoo police sergeant is under investigation for sexual assault of college students.
Pullman police sergeant is charged with custodial sexual misconduct. This comes after a 6-month-long investigation.
Sergeant Dan Hargraves is being held without bail at the Whitman County Jail. We're told he's on paid administrative leave. Crime 2's Amanda Rowley is in Pullman now with new information on this case. Amanda?
Washington State Patrol arrested Sergeant Dan Hargraves early this morning at the Pullman Police Department. Now, according to court documents, detectives found DNA on the victim's clothing from the night of the incident that matched Sergeant Hargraves. Court documents say on the night of March 30th, 49-year-old Pullman Police Sergeant Dan Hargraves noticed a WSU freshman student stumbling down Cougar Way after drinking at several parties on Greek Row. He drove her back to her dorm at Duncan Dunn Community Hall and gave her a warning for her intoxication. According to court documents, despite being told a second time to stay in her dorm room, Pullman Sergeant Hargraves saw her again staggering outside the dorm. Docs say Sergeant Hargraves told her she disobeyed his commands and had to take her to the station. He didn't put any handcuffs on her. In the report, the student said she became upset and told Hargraves she would do anything to not get arrested. She told investigators she thought she would have to pay him a good sum of money. She reported the patrol car then became very quiet and the car stopped. Court docs say the student's cell phone showed she arrived at Reaney Park just before 1 in the morning. She told investigators she had a vague recollection of the sexual assault that took place. Court docs say Hargraves eventually dropped her off at Rogers Hall, where her friends were expecting her. The student reported the assault in April, and Washington State Patrol detectives swabbed patrol cars of the 2 officers the student came in contact with that night. Results came back negative. Then, after a DNA analysis of the victim's clothing from the night of the incident, they found DNA on her sleeve that matched Hargraves.
In these small towns, corruption runs deep. I can't help but wonder why so many fraternity deaths are ruled as having no foul play. Overall, fraternities are at war, not only with each other, but also with the football teams. These conflicts will likely continue to result in fights and bloodshed on the streets. With corrupt police allowing criminals to go free, the cycle of violence seems destined to persist. Hopefully things will improve, but for now, it doesn't seem like change will come anytime soon. It's Casper West here, signing out.